back to the Total Confidence Podcast. I'm your host, Ahmad. Blessed and happy to be back with you for another week. And we got a pretty interesting show today. The name of today's show is Hot Sex on a Platter. And we'll be talking about, I'll be coming out of the book, Sex and the Enneagram, a guide to passionate relationships for the 9 personality types, written by Ann Gadd. I hope I'm saying her name right. I want to have her on the show. Now, I came across this book a couple of years ago, and I thought it was interesting, but also skeptical, because you got a lot of books, people just take the Enneagram and rehash the same concepts, but they put a different spin on it to market it differently. You know what I mean? You got people that's all types of stuff. So I was a little skeptical at first. I actually enjoyed the book. So I picked it back up with fresh eyes and a fresh mind. And we're going to talk about the Type 5, the section on the Type 5, which is called The Lonely Lover. Now, I'm going to go over some of these concepts, and I'm not going to incriminate myself with what's true and what's not true, at least not directly. So we're going to have some fun, and we're going to do some other types. And like I said, I would love to have this author on. So we're going to try to reach out to her for a future interview. But let's get right into it. The chapter on the Type 5 is called The Lonely Lover. 5's motto: distance binds us closer, right? Or, I enjoy observing sex. It fascinates me. 5 as lovers, they can be emotionally detached, fearing that involvement will be draining. Yet when they do make love, they can bring their fervency into the bedroom. 5s retreat by shifting into their thoughts and being intensely head-focused. They don't enjoy superficial chit-chat. They need to withdraw from others to connect with their feelings. Love type: paternal. 5s keep their distance and have a cooler, more cerebral approach to love. They don't want to feel too reliant on another person, desiring connection, yet fearing it. Now, this is true. And I said this before in a previous show. I have a hard time, even being married for 23 years, I have a hard time asking my wife for things. I don't want to be reliant, and it's completely irrational, but it's fear. Early on fear. And so that is true. Relationship brief. Being detached emotionally and physically is how I feel safe and even superior. I'm not a slave to my emotions and desires. This is true. But this is the ego talking. You know, to be in control at all times, to not want to be vulnerable. That's a pseudo virtue that I could totally say that about myself. Okay, sexual frustration. Every time I sleep with someone, they start making demands on me and my time. Why can't we have sex and then get back to work? Now, I can't speak on that because I ain't out there like that. But I've been married for 23 years, and so I can't really speak to that. Understanding the Type 5 sexuality. Brief overview. Although 5s can be tender at times, their partners more often complain that they are distant, either physically, emotionally, or both. This is true. We can check that box. Check. Relationships can make 5s feel dependent or dependent upon. As a result, they may find taking care of their own sexual needs less complicated than engaging in human interaction. They tend to have a numbed exterior, yet are usually sensitive if you get close to them. They are loners who don't appear to mind being lonely. In fact, most prefer it. I won't say that we don't mind being lonely. Helen Palmer, in her book, The Enneagram at Work and in Love, talked about the type 5 withdraws and closes the door, but they still desire that at least there's somebody on the other side of the door that wants them. So I wouldn't say we prefer to be lonely. Sometimes we prefer to be alone. This is true because relationships, interactions are costly, emotionally speaking. It's very difficult for the type 5 to, exert the energy, and it's very hard. So I can definitely attest to that. 5s want to believe they have mastered the mechanics of sex and life. Sex becomes cerebral rather than emotional or intuitive. If the choice was attending a lecture on understanding the mathematical mechanics of sex or having actual sex, many 5s would carefully weigh up the choice. When I first read that, I was like, yeah, that's some bull. But if it is something I'm really interested in, that's a form of ecstasy within itself. Because they feel inferior, they collect knowledge as a way to enhance their capabilities. Knowledge becomes the way to power. In relationships, they will try to attract a mate not through flashy dressing, but by impressing them with information, often on obscure subjects. This is true. Yeah, I never was really relying on clothes, even before I met my wife and out there, like I'll have my phases where I will go and cop some new gear and stuff like that, but that was just a means to an end. I still rather connect intellectually and on a cerebral level. 1-5 looking for love posted a complex mathematical equation on Facebook suggesting that any woman who could supply the correct answer would clearly be a good match. He remains single. I think that's kind of embellished for the book, but I don't know. It could be, but I don't believe that. They are likely to start discussing intellectual concepts after sex rather than whispering sweet nothings in their lover's ear. 5s also tend to withhold information regarding past liaisons and sexual secrets. Their chat-up lines can be awkward, but they are typically intelligent and kind. Yeah, that's true. Cause sometimes, like the sweet nothings part and the, just it feels so contrived sometimes. That's difficult. I said I wasn't going to incriminate myself, so let's keep it moving here. 5s hide from the world under a veil of nihilistic, but knowledgeable disinterest. None of this concerns me. Feeling separate is difficult to relate to love, which seems to demand the opposite. Sexually, they may desire a mate, but negotiating love with intellect and knowledge creates a paradox. Cupid holding an encyclopedia. This is hilarious, yo. It is easier to withdraw and deny that they have a need for love. This is true. And you've heard me say this a few times before, but Dr. Beatrice Chestnut, when I first read her book, The Complete Enneagram, in the description of the 5, and her describing the 5 as hypersensitive, it shocked me, but we are hypersensitive. It's and it's very difficult to open up like that because to risk being hurt because we hurt. When we hurt, I'm talking about type fives, we are hurt. So, you know, we got a glass jaw when it comes to affairs of the heart, you know. So it's very difficult to expose that glass jaw to be vulnerable like that, you know. You'll find hanging out as professors, academics, professionals, or writers. Anywhere there's a knowledge to be gained in a specific field, they seek a quiet work environment and they don't enjoy bosses breathing down their necks. Now, this is true. One thing I cannot fucking stand is a micromanager. Dude, I'm pretty competent, and trust me, I will come to you if I need you. Get the fuck off my back. So, yeah, this is true. Excuse my language, that's a sore spot right there. The arising of type 5. Fives are one of the three head and fear types, along with 6 and 7. Their passion is avarice, which translates as feeling that there is not enough love, time, money. While ones tend to be frugal, fives fear that their limited resources will be depleted, so they withhold them. This is true. I mean, it is deep on a psychological level. For example, I can keep, the little things that I own, because I don't own a lot of material possessions, I cherish it. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't use the word cherish, but yeah, they mean something to me. So when something is taken from me, you know, it's this physical sensation. It's horrible. So fives develop this fear from childhood when they may have felt there wasn't enough nurturing. Enneagram author Sandra Maitrey uses the analogy of being marooned on a desert island, holding on to what few resources there are. This is true. Or sucking on an empty breast. The loss of connectedness with the prime nurturer is experienced as a deeper loss of connection to being. Marooned on a desert island with few possessions. Yeah. I hold on to the few little things I have. Oh my God. I said this before, man. I will wear a pair of shoes until they are flip-flops. You know? I will wear a pair of jeans until they just look completely like unwearable, you know. The few things that I hold, this is true. But the interesting thing is, and I read this before, it's the sensation of sucking on an empty breast where there's no expectation of replenishing yourself, you know what I'm saying, of gaining more resources. So when my money is low, oh my God, I'm telling you, I am messed up because there's this fear that I'm depleted, you know. Paradoxically, some fives report having felt smothered by their prime nurturer, where their boundaries were not respected, and love was experienced as consuming, even invasive. In this event, fear arose in feeling that they must hold on to what little autonomy they had. As children, fives didn't feel truly seen or understood. This is true. I stayed out the way. You know, I'm the youngest, and I stayed in my room reading my books, and I really didn't feel like I fit in. I really didn't know how to socially navigate even through my own home growing up, you know. So, let me see where I'm at. The parent would not have intended this, but rather would have lacked the ability to attune to the child's needs. Yeah, it wasn't intentional. I'm just a little quiet child. Like, what is up with this guy? My parents probably were like, what is up with this dude? No, I think my dad was a 5, so he probably could understand. So the little 5 retreated from the family into their own world and headspace, where things felt safer and less threatening, and where thinking overruled feeling. This is true. Even to this day, when there's like volatile situation, let's say two people are passionately arguing, it like fries my like hard drive mentally. It shocks my nervous system. Like I'm like paralyzed with fear initially, and then anger, and so yeah, so I retreat into my mind because how I'm feeling, that fear is there, and to escape that fear, I completely go mental, if that makes sense. Fives feel isolated, observing rather than engaging, and minimizing their needs so they don't have to rely on anyone or anything else. This is true. In relationships, this creates the fear that a partner will repeat their childhood experience of depleting their resources or making demands on them. This is true. Perfect timing for me to get a cold, right? Fives in love. Integrated fives are fascinated and curious about their partners and can have penetrating insight into them. They want to understand their lovers. In relationships, they feel confident and competent and are appreciative of their partners, displaying a deep level of compassion. Now, this is integrated fives. This is the goal, okay? I'm not there. So, being honest, this is the goal. Integrated fives. This is fives that are, transcending our ego, that protection, that false sense of protection. They're independent yet prepared to share their world and its secrets instead of removing themselves to quietly connect with their emotions alone. They can now trust a partner and can, as a result, share their inner emotive worlds. It's something and I just think about myself that even at 45, it is very difficult for me to express certain emotions, to be vulnerable. It's terrifying to me, and so this is the path of, as they call it, integration, reconnecting to our essence. The selfishness of their less integrated selves transforms into selflessness. Yeah, definitely ain't there yet. They are outgoing and cheerful companions with a wry sense of humor. In the bedroom, they are explorative and uncensored in their desires. They also become more persistent in the pursuit of a partner rather than giving up at the slightest hint of rejection. Sharing is caring becomes their way of interacting as they develop a rich emotional as well as intellectual life. Wow, to go from fearing to be relying on somebody to completely being secure. This reminds me of the attachment styles, which there's an Enneagram teacher I want to bring on here and talk about the attachment styles. If you're not familiar with that, that's a study within itself. The secured attachment, the anxious, and the avoidant. And they're said in different ways, but that's another story for another time. All right, average fives. Now, average, this is where most of us are that are working and trying to become the integrated fives. Fives become increasingly detached from the world and those in it. Caring for themselves and others becomes irrelevant, and close relationships are harder to contend with. They may be attracted to someone, but not feel confident enough to follow up, so they may ridicule that person. She's just a blonde bimbo. He's not the sharpest pencil in the box. As a result, average fives may find themselves single, apart from the sexual types, or in brief emotional roller coaster relationships. I've been married for 23 years, so I can't relate to this. Coping with loved ones becomes just too much. I need space, they yell. Work or the latest project becomes a way of avoiding relationships. Wow. Fives may claim they are too busy to engage in any form of social activity with their partner, should they still have one, yet time is often wasted on completely random tasks. such as creating a detailed database of birds they've spotted, compiling lists of their favorite music, or researching an obscure movie genre. There's some truth to this. Relationships are taxing to a 5, and I can get lost in work and unrelated stuff as opposed to emotionally investing what I need to invest with my wife, with my family. I don't feel I have the resources emotionally to do so. It's not a slight against them. It's that it feels like it's too much. It's overwhelming. And it's deception because that's the ego. And the ego's way of trying to keep me safe. And the effect of that cause is people don't feel appreciated. People don't feel, I'm talking about loved ones, don't feel that I'm present. They don't feel that I really care. And it's a psychological block. But that's what this is about. It's about finding out why these things happen and working on them. Not, oh, well, the reason I don't connect is because of this or this or this. It's still, once you bring awareness to it, then the hard part is to work on it and work through it. So, yeah, I've done random stuff. I'm laughing about the compiled list of favorite music because, I sit there and put a playlist together for a title. They can become increasingly secretive, yet jealous of any attention their partner may receive. I'm not really jealous, so I'm not the jealous type. 5 start amputating their relationships as they feel more incapable in them. This is true. They'll tell themselves, I never really loved her, or men are problematic. Dated a guy 5 years ago and it was a disaster, so I'm not going there again. All right, this is a woman saying that. Okay. They can become frustrated with themselves for feeling sexual urges. They don't want to feel as though they need or rely on anything or anyone. This is true. For someone to want to be an island to themselves psychologically, to have any form of connection, especially sexual connection, you have to come out of your shell. And you have to see another person and open up to another person. In the case of a 5, your partner, your wife, or your husband, if it's a 5 is married. If it's a female 5, you have to rely on people, and the ego is made or helps us to run from people pretty much all the time. We're wired to run from people. To have real connection is to show up, and that's very, very hard. But we have needs, and so that's difficult because if you don't show up emotionally, but you have a physical and sexual need, that person can feel really objectified. 5's boundaries become increasingly rigid. They'll be pernicky about sharing a suitcase, or will see their partner's spoon dipped into their dessert as an act of hostility. This is true. I have boundaries, and I don't like sharing my food. Like if my wife just took her spoon and dipped it into my ice cream, I would be mortified, Yeah. The beautiful thing about this is, even though it's some shame around it, when we see these things about ourselves, it allows us to work on these things, as opposed to just go through the rest of our life disconnected from people, out of something that happened in childhood, So it's beautiful. It's tough sometimes to read this stuff, but I'm thankful. Disintegrated fives. These are fives that are not doing so well mentally. Isolated, helpless, depressed. Fives slip into a world where life and its potential beauty is pointless. They become cynical and just want to be left alone. Yeah, when I'm depressed, I want to be to myself. Like Origen of Alexandria, an early church father, born in 165 AD, who castrated himself to stop his sexual desires. Oh, whoa. Disintegrated fives castrate themselves emotionally. Wow. Castrate themselves emotionally. It's true. I ain't castrating myself physically, but I can castrate myself emotionally. This is true. Wow. Their interactions become increasingly argumentative and provocative as they try to undermine others' pleasures. Do you know how many sexual diseases there are out there? Sex is just an expression of our animal instincts. Yeah, fives, we can intellectualize things to really check out and disconnect emotionally. And we completely become this intellectual being and completely shut the tap off of emotional connection. At this level, they can provoke outrage with their sexual beliefs, such as it is unhealthy to remain in a monogamous relationship. Sex is purely physical function. Sex is a purely physical function. Intimacy is a deranged illusion to compensate for our inadequacies. Yeah, we can intellectualize and weaponize that intellectualization. Wow, this is something. I wanted to do this just like this. I read this over, but I wanted for it to be raw and come off and react to this in real time. They want others to reject them to confirm their nihilistic view of the world. They are selfish and self-absorbed, ending relationships irrespective of the pain they cause others. They can further alienate others through a lack of hygiene, which starts to be seen as a waste of time. I don't know about that. You know, they become more outlandish in their ideas and more eccentric in their behavior. Like Dr. Finch, the psychiatrist in the film and memoir by Augustine Barrows, Running with Scissors, who believes that God is speaking through him through the shape of his feces. What the? Nah. All right, I gotta skip that. That's totally gross. Another extremely disintegrated five is Frederick Clegg in the thriller The Collector by John Fowles. Clegg starts off collecting butterflies and ends up abducting and imprisoning a young woman called Miranda. He desires her, but his social ineptitude means he's unable to form a normal relationship with her. Instead, he adds Miranda to his collection of petrified, pretty objects. God damn. This makes me think of the show You, Joel Goldberg, you know. Man, they make us sound like we fucking psychos. All right. Life at this level becomes meaningless. Disintegrated fives can become nihilistic, schizoid, psychotic, or develop schizophrenia. Because integration is a choice, fives can form caring and loving relationships when they learn to explore their emotions, express the compassion they feel, become less serious and more playful, and find a partner who accepts and appreciates their brilliant mind and their idiosyncrasies. Yeah, when the five feels seen, because we already feel weird sometimes, you know, we feel like aliens. So when you find somebody who appreciates your quirkiness, your weirdness, you know, that's always a beautiful thing. And not just a romantic partner, but even friendships, you know. The passion of avarice and the fixation of stinginess. Fives view the world as being low on resources and feel that in limiting their own needs, they limit their dependence on the world and others. Best then to remain alone and limit one's sexual needs. If I can get by with less, I have less to buy. The commonly understood meaning of the word avarice as extreme greed for wealth or material gain does not reflect the true essence of a five's wounding. Yeah, I mean, I like to have resources because I feel like crap when I don't have it. But I mean, like, it's just a means to an end. Like, money within itself doesn't mean much to me. It's just what it can buy. With the, you know what I mean? What me being able to take care of the things I need to take care of is more important. The money is the tool to do that. But I'm not somebody who, worships money and is like paper chasing. You know what I mean? And all that. You know what I'm saying? That's I go through phases of that. You know what I mean? But it's short lived. Just like I go through phases of dressing well before I revert back to, my baseline behavior. You know, um, it is in the adjective avarice. I'm sorry, avaricious. Okay, avaricious, and the older 14th century meaning of the word stingy, that we find a better understanding of why this word has become synonymous with fives. It's not just the lust of an 8 going after, but rather a holding on. Even their feelings and thoughts can be drained by a partner. This is true. God, it's horrible. Because, you know, when our partners don't feel seen, and this is so beautiful with the Enneagram, because this wiring, which causes us to disconnect from people, and to have a partner and not feel seen is and feel that their needs are a burden to you. They can feel that way as a 5 because we feel so cut off. Like, damn, I feel like I'm disturbing you. I feel like I'm too much for you. A peek into a 5's bedroom. Walk into the bedroom of a 5 and you're likely to find it messy with books, papers, or other signs of the 5's interests. The habitat is merely a place to sleep, have sex, and work, so it is unlikely that any significant cash will be spent beautifying it. This is true. I'm bare minimum. I'm like, I got my books and my little stuff that I use as far as hygiene products, my clothes, and I'm good. I don't have to. It doesn't have to look a certain way. I mean, I don't. I don't even pay. It's stuff in my house that I don't even know is here. I've been here for nearly 5 years, and I'll be like, that was in here. Shit. It's terrible. Furniture may be minimum and sparse. The room may be dark. You can see the computer screen better that way. See this little digs on the file like that. You know what? Expect thick blinds and closed shutters or curtains to shut out inquisitive neighbors. It's true. Self-preservation files are frequently hoarders, so the room can become crammed with their collections. I'm going to skip that because I'm not a self-preservation files. All right, fantasies and erotica. What the hell have I embarked on in this episode? Fives are very comfortable with being in their mental sanctuaries. Their introverted natures make them feel awkward around people. It's true. Their low sense of self makes them self-critical. This is true too. As a result, many would rather daydream or fantasize about having sex. 5s lose control when they submit to the wishes of others, so in their fantasy world, they may switch to situations in which they are in control. This, together with their interests in all things dark and often socially unacceptable, may have them fantasizing about the weird and, at least in their eyes, wonderful. I'm going to skip this part because it's a little too far left. Oh, man. Having spent so much time conceiving sex means that when 5s do get sexual with a partner, there can be tremendous energy and drive. Their intense nature can have them wound up with desire like a spring. Yeah, pressing all that, holding all that in, and cutting off natural connection from people can, build pressure up like that. So I can see that. Fives may also explore intense and intimate fantasy situations where they do share secrets with a significant other, which in real life they may not do. Research by Israeli psychologist Gurit E. Birnbaum, I'm butchering the name, and collaborators who studied the fantasies of 48 couples over a 3-week period showed that for avoidance attachment types, like most fives, most fantasies involve acts of aggression and alienation, emotional emotion, emotional distancing, either with themselves as the aggressor or their partner, as well as the desire to escape from reality. Problems in their relationship led to an increase in these fantasies. The report also suggested that using fantasies was a way of avoiding emotional closeness. So a five would rather create a picture. This is saying is a five would rather, because since we live in our minds anyway, create this picture and live in this fantasy than to risk actually being vulnerable and being reliant on someone to show up, because that's terrifying. What if I'm rejected? Let's see. Most people view porn for sexual release as pleasure-seeking strategy to elevate uncomfortable moods or emotions caused by anxiety, depression, loneliness, fear, or boredom, or simply a way to relax. But there are those who use porn as maladaptive coping strategy. Internet porn watching is also widespread among the Enneagram types, so fives are far along for their interests. According to Covenant Eyes, a software company offering online services that help people overcome porn addiction, pornography addicts, like all addicts, feel they have little control in their lives. For a five, their long suppressed need for love results in them feeling unlovable and powerless, but watching others have sex brings an attractive feeling of power. For once, they're in charge by changing websites or delving into the deep, dark web where society's taboos can be explored. Women and men who would normally ignore them are there for their entertainment and to fulfill their needs. Internet sex is secretive, and fives enjoy being secretive. Porn may alleviate some of their sexual tension, but beneath this drive is the intense but denied desire for connection. Despite their urges, they may be virgins for longer than most types. I don't mean to laugh. Some of that is true. I'm not gonna say how much of it's true. Some of what I read is true. I said, but I definitely was the last of my friends that I know of to lose my virginity. This is true. So, let's see. I think, all right, love type paternal. Paternal love is experienced as a cool, more reserved approval rather than an intense emotional experience. It is a guiding light to follow. Fives enjoy being specialists or authorities in certain fields, particularly social types. Yeah, I'm a social five. In relationships, they want to be someone who feels competent enough to inspire love from a partner who they see as lacking their insight and expertise. I'll be the North Star for you to follow. Oh, man. Okay. Detached love. In 1987, psychologists Cindy Hazen and Phil Shaver ran a love quiz in the Denver local newspaper, the Rocky Mountain News. They classified respondents according to the 3 infant attachment types: secure, ancient resistant, and anxious avoidant. These attachment styles are fascinating. And like I said earlier, I want to bring one of the Enneagram teachers on to talk more about this, because it's another tool in your toolbox to better relationships, to better understand self. Okay. So they classified the respondents according to the 3 infant attachment types: secure, anxious resistant, and anxious avoidant that have been identified by Mary Ainsworth, a developmental psychologist known for her work in attachment theory. Hazen and Shaver were looking to match these early forms of childhood attachment to adult relationships. All right, let's skip that. You know, let's see. Love from afar. Fives often appreciate their partners more when they are absent, so they may choose long-distance relationships or partners who are emotionally absent, complying or undemanding. I've worked on the road, and even when I first moved to Charlotte, and my wife was back in Richmond, it did create a closeness, me being away, because and it's not a healthy thing. It's not like a virtue, but emotional closeness drains me as a five, right? Because unresolved trauma. So, but being away and missing her, and that really ignited our relationship when we did see each other. So, yeah. When fives feel their partner is becoming too dependent on them, or if they feel they're becoming too attached to a partner, they may force themselves to distance themselves to find out how much a person they have left behind really means to them. It is if being apart makes love clearer. Yep, that's what I said, more defined. There's a mental struggle between attachment and detachment. A five may announce that they're setting off to walk the Camino, taking themselves on a research trip to a remote area of Alaska, sailing solo around the world, or choosing a job that involves constant travel, which I did before, whatever will allow them to regain their sense of independence. Now, I took that job because I was broke, but it did, as a byproduct, help me gain a sense of independence. It is not that all fives will have lovers across town or across continents, but fives will see the attraction of a relationship that there is but not there. That is there but is not there. Okay. It offers brief, intense sexual release with no further demands, which suits most fives perfectly. Don't expect flowers. Now let me read this crazy ass story. I was getting ready to skip this shit, but let me read this shit. I was told the story about a five in a long distance relationship. The object of his affections arrived for a visit, and once in the bed, he fondly leaned over to kiss a photograph of his lover before going to sleep, while she was lying next to him. It was easier to kiss an inanimate object than engage with a real live woman. Get the fuck out of here with that. Come on, man. That shit, I don't believe that. All right, don't expect flowers. Rather than having the rebelliousness of a 6 or the standing against others like an 8, fives are cynical about which society holds dear. This is true. They can forget birthdays or anniversaries, and even if they do remember, they might not respond. They may ridicule events like Valentine's Day as being too commercial, or seeing religion as the opiate or the poor or the mass. Excuse me. This is true. I hate holidays. Most holidays. I hate the pomp and circumstance and being compelled to do something for somebody, because it feels so contrived, and I don't like to be ordered to do something like that, and there's like an expectation of that. Many fives don't want to be distant from others, but just don't know how to go about connecting with them. Fives often seem to have missed out on the understanding. Let me slow down. Why am I reading so damn fast? Fives often seem to have missed out on understanding the norms of basic interaction, and may feel ill at ease and unsure how to navigate social functions. This is true. Sometimes fives' behavior can appear eccentric, and they can be very impractical, so partners may find themselves sorting out resultant issues. Oh, man. Let's see. I'm going to skip this part because this is wild. Let's see. Uh, Problem in relationships. Because in their childhood, fives typically experienced a lack of a deep bond. I'm sorry. Either a lack of a deep bond or an overwhelmingly and invasive experience with their maternal figure, they will invariably subconsciously replicate this in childhood. If the five is the only child, this adds to the feeling of disconnection. As adults, fives can either attract quote unquote mothers or men assuming that role as partners, or alternatively can go at it alone. Um, Me and my good friend Jason talked about this. People's tendency to marry somebody like their mother. My wife has a lot of qualities like my mother. I believe my mother was a type 2, and my wife is a type 2. Um, and type 2s, they tend to dramatize their emotions, you know. Um, and my mother did that, and my wife does that. So this is true. Disassociation from the body can mean not only that fives find relationships threatening, but that they find it hard to connect with their own and their partner's physical and emotional needs, which can feel overwhelming. Engaging the services of a prostitute who places no demands other than payment may feel safer than a long-term relationship. I don't know nothing about that. Partners of fives, but I understand the psychological part of that. I get the concept of what they're saying. I don't have no experience with that, though. Partners of fives will have to understand that their attitude of, I don't need you, I could do perfectly well on my own, is simply a fear of being too dependent upon. It's not just a rejection. It's not a rejection of the partner. Having their five say sex is just a physical act, like going to the toilet, is not exactly going to have the partners flinging off their clothes in wanton lust. So they'll have to find ways of understanding their five signals. Fives will try to bond through engaging in activities with their partners. One partner may enjoy bird watching, while the other has an interest in photographing birds. Or they may both enjoy writing, but in different parts of the house if possible. Yeah, I do like to connect through my interests. You know, that's something for me. You know, because I have obscure interests, you know, like the shows that I like to watch, a lot of people don't like to watch, you know what I mean? Um, I watch things that have like an intellectual bearing on it. And so connecting through that, or connecting through my interests, connecting through the Enneagram and stuff like that, that helps our relationship tremendously. Anxiety. If they are not at ease with their partner or surroundings during sex, fives will become uncomfortable and anxious. So a massage given by a five to their partner may be anything but relaxing. Likewise, foreplay can feel nervous. The partner may have the feeling that they need the five to breathe deeply, relax, and slow down. Their anxiety means fives often suffer from insomnia. A partner may wake up at 4 a.m. to find them behind a computer watching porn, playing World of Warcraft, or reading. They build up tension and nervous energy, which at times makes their sleeping erratic or impossible. Sex can help relax them. Let's see. We'll skip that. Instinctual drives. Okay. The instinctual drive. Self-preservation fives. This subtype is the most typical five, being the most withdrawn of the three subtypes. Self-preservation fives may hoard objects behind safe and very private walls. I have known two self-preservation fives who didn't have doorbells. At its core, hoarding reveals a need to not need others. I am my own castle. I'm going to skip this. Let me go to mine. I'm sorry, I'm being selfish here. Let me go to mine. I'm the social five. Let's see if mine lines up. Fives tend to express their avarice through an intense desire to know more make some sense of it all and retain knowledge. In search to become experts in their chosen field, they can sometimes become heavenly, but no earthly good. Damn. Meaning they lose connection with the daily norms of life, idealistic dreamers, and seekers who forget to pay the bills. Yeah. I asked Ahmad why he spent so many years learning to astral travel while avoiding relationship responsibility. The answer: daily life is boring. People are like sheep. They haven't learned to think for themselves. I'm searching for something beyond the ordinary. I'm going to close this out and talk about this. The fives want to be recognized in a chosen field and admire the knowledge of those who know more than they do. I've made a list of the most intelligent people I know in the world. A five confess. Interacting with those who share their interests in various societies or groups. Social fives give the illusion of connection with others, though this is an intellectual rather than intimate or emotional connection. This is true. And answer to thoughts that arose around the concept of sex and love, social fives replied, are things I could do with more of. Are lots of fun, mainly through sex. We are born in flesh and blood, and we may as well enjoy love and sex. This is who we are. Let's explore it. This was interesting. I didn't want to delve to, just out of respect for my own privacy and out of privacy of my wife, I didn't want to go into too much of this, but I wanted to be raw and organic in my reactions to this. But yeah, the social five, when they talk about, we have a hard time, in normal life. Like Eminem said on Lose Yourself, a normal life is boring, but superstardom's close to post-mortem. I'm messing it all up, but yeah. And so this was interesting. I would suggest that you get this book and look at your type, because it's very helpful just to put our personality under a microscope like this. Do I agree with all of this stuff? No. But it was interesting. It was a good read. I read this about 2 years ago, and I'm getting back into reading it now. So I'm gonna try to have the author on. Let's do that. We'll try to have the author on, and we go deeper into the different types. I know y'all want to hear y'all types too. So, but thank you for listening. This is Ahmad Wazir, and I'll talk to you soon. Peace.